is the latest news with deep sea mining? We'll tell you that on this episode.
We get some rum and beer, expensive port in a reindeer, so you know we're gonna party till tomorrow.
Welcome back, Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew. This is Dr. Scarlett Smash, and it is Cinco de Mayo for me. Yeah, I'm very excited about it, and I'm drinking wine. I know that's probably not what you're supposed to be drinking on Cinco de Mayo, but I'm drinking wine because I just needed to have it. Dr. Craken, it's so good to see you. And are you having anything incredible and great on this 5525 portal?
Well, I'm just drinking tea at the moment, but I do have some stuff for this evening. But I drank rather a lot yesterday, so I have to pace myself a bit.
So does that mean that you're going to be going somewhere tonight?
No, I've just got it ready to drink here around the house because I was out yesterday and I was out Saturday.
I know you are a spoiled boy. I cannot believe how much and how spoiled you are gallivanting and having fun little parties. Like Andrew Thaler, our guest, says, what did you call him, Andrew Thaler? The dress-up party people?
He's a man that loves fancy dress parties and boiling his tea in the microwave.
Yeah.
No, that is wrong. You do not boil tea in the microwave.
I agree. I do not boil tea in the microwave.
Love it. He got you. All right. So, yes, let's introduce Andrew Thaler. We have had you on, during COVID ages ago, I feel like. It was definitely COVID, right, Kraken?
It wasn't that long ago we were talking about some of the latest deep sea mining news as well. But yeah, we've had Andrew on several times.
I know, because he's the expert.
And you notice we're starting to look more and more like each other.
That's because he grew his hair out, and he has
Floppy
a very,
hair.
very bushy beard. But I'll tell you what, Dr. Kraken, he's looking like his beard is coming in a lot better than yours.
That is true.
I just clipped it because someone said I looked like a hippie wizard, I believe.
That's what we're going for. I will say, Kraken, the problem with this convalescence is that, I've been gray since I was 25. So if you're starting to look more like me, that just means you're going gray, my friend.
Wow, 25 years old, you were salt and pepper already.
As soon as I hit my prelims during grad school, boom, gray.
Wow. Okay. For those that don't know you, what does a deep sea ecologist investigator mean?
I don't know.
But that is who you are.
I am I guess I'm a benthic mercenary of some renown.
Oh, okay.
So I am a deep sea ecologist. I'm a conservation technologist, and I'm an ocean educator. And I started my own company after grad school to do environmental consulting on both policy, science, and education. And so I am kind of a jack of all trades and a fixer for ocean conservation organizations that need expertise, particularly in the deep sea, which is not the most readily available expertise out there.
And that basically means that you are actually asked to go to Congress at some point to speak on these topics.
Occasionally, I've been asked. I haven't actually had to go yet. I've been on deck for a few. But that does roll into our topic of the day, which is deep sea mining, because I was on deck to testify at last week's congressional hearing on deep sea mining. And fortunately, I was not called up to go. They had Duncan Curry, who is an environmental lawyer, go instead of me. But I did have to get a haircut, and now I look like Kraken, and I regret it.
So tell us about that topic. So tell us what was going on and what you could have been speaking about.
Yes. Why is it such a hot topic now?
So it's a wild moment in deep sea mining, and it's particularly a wild moment in deep sea mining policy. I'm not going to talk politics, but I do have to talk policy, because there are two companies right now that are private commercial enterprises that have been pushing forward very aggressively to mine the deep sea, particularly through the United States. The President of the United States put out an executive order instructing NOAA and the Department of the Interior to begin developing an expedited process for permitting deep sea mining. One of those organizations, the Department of the Interior, through the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, controls how mining of seabed mineral resources can happen within the United States exclusive economic zone. So in the territorial waters of the United States. And regardless of how you feel about the development of deep sea mining, that's at least a position that is legally defensible from a policy standpoint. The U.S. has sovereignty over its own oceans. If the U.S. wants to mine the oceans, it can do that. The trickier bit is that there's another company called the Metals Company, very descriptive, which has been working through the International Seabed Authority for the last several years to get permits to mine in the high seas. So that's areas beyond national jurisdiction. That's all of the ocean that exists beyond any nation's borders. And that area is controlled by the United Nations through the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, which the majority of countries in the world, 169 at this point, have ratified. The US has not, but has treated the convention as customary law. So functionally speaking, we're de facto members of the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. But this mining company has decided that the process is not moving ahead fast enough, that they want to explore other possibilities for mining the high seas. And they have gone to the U.S. and said, hey, you have this law called the Deep Seabed Hard Minerals Act. This law went into effect before the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. It was originally envisioned as something that would be phased out once the U.S. ratified the Law of the Sea, which we never did, unfortunately. And so because of that, we think the U.S. should be able to issue us a permit to mine in the high seas, in areas beyond the U.S.'s national jurisdiction. And we do not have to go through this international body that 169 countries have collectively agreed is in charge of regulating this area. And in addition to that, we want to mine areas that were originally claimed by the country of Nauru, who was our partner. And it's unclear how any of those partnerships shake up now after this company has gone to the U.S. and said, we want to blow up this multilateral negotiation process and go it alone with the U.S.
No way. That's
yes,
wild.
way.
Okay, so you got it. This is wild to me. I don't understand. Create your own rules, huh? Just go ahead and get rid of all of the agreements and do what you want. That's basically like me going over to my neighbor's yard and saying, you know what? I've decided this part is mine. And I'm going to drill it.
Functionally, yes.
Imagine if, like, Nigeria suddenly decided that it had a new law that's completely different to an international treaty that everyone else has signed up.
That everyone signed up for.
And we'll use this law, we'll use this law and mine in Wales.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
we can.
What? That is the most wild situation ever. Okay, I don't hear much of this kind of news here in Florida, and I do understand that is a situation with state to state to state, right? Depending on what news wants to cover what.
Well, me and Craken are in the heart of wonkery.
Exactly.
We're both in DC suburbs.
Exactly.
Mine is more of a suburb than yours. But...
Absolutely. So how long has this been in discussion and on the news?
So the International Seabed Authority came into existence in 1994. For the last 30 years, and when I say International Seabed Authority, there's an organization that's made up of a secretary general and like administrators. And then there's the actual body, which is a collection of the 169 nations that have this negotiation. They have been negotiating for 30 years on the rules for how to proceed with mining the seabed in areas beyond national jurisdiction in the high seas. And part of the problem and part of the reason why this negotiation has taken so long is that there is a principle in play called the Common Heritage Principle. And that principle states that the resources of the deep sea bed that are beyond the reach of any one country are the common heritage of all mankind. So that includes you and me. That includes the people of Ukraine. That includes the people of North Korea. That includes the people of Japan. That includes every country, as well as under superseding UN proclamations, also future generations. So these resources are really a shared common heritage of all of us. And so, as I'm sure you can imagine, if you are trying to sit down and negotiate between 169 different countries, several private companies, several public companies that are owned by countries, some of which have mining companies, some of which don't want to mine at all, some of which want to profit from mining but don't have access to the resources, some of which that don't have coastlines. Everyone has different priorities. Everyone has different goals. And you need to figure out a way where this jointly owned resource can be equitably divided among the common heritage of humankind. And so it's a slow process. It's a difficult process. It's a very tortuous negotiation. It is not a fun negotiation to watch because it is UN negotiations generally are pretty dry, and this one is especially complicated. And so these companies think this process is going too slow. We need to speed it up. When the reality is the process is actually going at a fairly good clip. It's moving, it's making progress. Nothing's really been held up. It just goes slow because there's a lot of different stakeholders in play. And recognizing that these stakeholders are in play is really important because this company wants to mine your seabed resources. They belong to you just as much as they belong to me, just as much as they belong to that company. And so, there are all of these questions in play about, if you're the Democratic Republic of the Congo, who is a signatory to the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, you have terrestrial cobalt mines. You have a terrestrial cobalt mining industry. If you are Indonesia, you have terrestrial nickel mines. You have a terrestrial nickel mining industry. Polymetallic nodules are supposed to supplant those industries. The nodules of the seafloor that they want to mine are rich in cobalt. They're rich in nickel. If the most optimistic projections of deep sea mining turn out to be true, if hope of hopes, all of us are just cynical naysayers, and it turns out to be an incredibly environmentally friendly and incredibly resource efficient way to get cobalt and nickel, those countries are going to lose their industries, and then they have to be compensated because of how the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea is structured. If you are a Pacific Island nation whose value and economy and culture comes from the health of the ocean, and the worst predictions of deep sea mining come to pass, and it turns out to be environmentally devastated, those countries have to be compensated for the damage that's done to their environment and their cultural heritage. So there's all these incredibly complicated things at play, and then you have private companies coming in. And, I understand if you are a private company and you're developing technology to mine the seafloor and you're attracting investors, there's a ticking clock. You have a burn rate, At some point, you either get to mine or you're going to run out of money. And that's what happens. It's a high-risk industry. No one's mined the seabed yet. No one knows how commercially viable it's really going to be. That's a risk if you're starting out a company. But the reality of the situation is that the health of the ocean is not beholden to the burn rate of private companies.
Damn, that is a quote right there.
I like to give you something pithy every so often.
That was good. Compensation. I don't even understand. How would you even compensate another country? Like, what the hell? How would you even quantify that?
It's complicated, and it really depends on a lot of intrinsic and extrinsic factors that need to be built into the ultimate treaty and the ultimate mining code that dictates how countries and companies who want to mine the high seas, and again, we're talking about areas beyond national jurisdiction, inside national waters, politically a lot less complicated, still technologically very difficult, but outside of national waters, these are our shared resources. This is our shared heritage. You deserve to be compensated too.
Interesting. Okay, so hold on. You're saying we would have to create another treaty to understand or to demonstrate or to state what compensation is given to the other country or other neighbor or whoever shares that land, that property.
Right.
When in policy, it sounds like you can just completely ignore the treaty.
That's the mining code. And I said, treaty. The mining code is a treaty, ultimately. Okay. It's a UN negotiation. Yeah. The code that they then agree on. And
they're going against the codes already.
So this is where the U.S. comes into play because the U.S. is a wild card. We are the only major economy in the world.
Right now, right?
We've always been a wild card.
Okay.
You asked me to be apolitical. The U.S. has always been a wild card with regard to the Convention on the Law of the Sea.
Okay.
We are the largest economy and the only major economy in the world that has not ratified the treaty. For most of the history of the treaty, we have treated it as customary law, which means we have said, okay, we are going to abide by what the UN agrees on, despite the fact that we're not participating in this negotiation in a direct way. So the U.S. does not have a seat at the ISA. The U.S. does not get to vote at the ISA. The U.S. has observer status, which is the same status that Greenpeace and Pew Charitable Trust have. So they can go, they can make interventions at the meeting and say, this is what we want. But they don't have voting authority and they don't have final say over what the treaty looks like, other than the fact that we're the biggest economy in the world and can, bully our partner nations into doing what we need to do. So the U.S. has said we never ratified the treaty. We're not technically beholden to the treaty. That means we can go mine the seabed.
Wow.
If this was on land and say Germany decided, you know what, we're going to mine Texas. We'll mine Texas and not give any money to Texas.
So you keep bringing up countries. Here's the problem. You
I
keep bringing
know.
up countries. So Texas is a sovereign part of the U.S. This is more akin to if we were on land and the UK said, we would like to mine Antarctica. So a territory that is not part of any one nation, that has resources. And we have agreements. We have the Antarctic Treaty. No one can use Antarctica for commercial purposes.
That's a good analogy. Thank you for that's
We
a good analogy. Yeah.
also have the Moon Treaty.
Oh, this is interesting. So this is basically a future of what could happen.
So this is where it really sticks in my craw with the blowing up the multilateral agreement, because I'm a bit of, I don't know, cynical optimist is the right word, but I am of the opinion that deep sea mining will probably proceed commercially within the next 10 years, but will likely not turn out to be particularly commercially viable. I think the commercial projections for deep sea mining are not particularly great, looking at the way that we consume the metals that they're going to be producing. The fact that cobalt and nickel are in historic surpluses right now, to the point where the Democratic Republic of the Congo shut down their cobalt exports for 3 months because there was too much of a surplus. So I don't actually think the industry is going to be as valuable as the mining companies are predicting. And because of that, I'm not in a huge rush to get the treaty done, the mining code done. I think we can take our time with that. And I think the reason we need to take our time with that, with the deep sea mining code that is being produced at the International Seabed Authority, is because this is the first time in the history of human civilization that environmental rules and regulations for a major extractive industry have proceeded ahead of the actual industry. So we've never before had a case where we have all of the scientists and all the environmentalists and all of the environmental policy people lining up ahead of the actual industry starting and saying, let's figure out what the impacts are. Let's figure out what could possibly happen. Let's put rules in place before you mine, and then reevaluate as mining is happening. The general trend for industrial exploitation is, we find oil in Pennsylvania, we drill a bunch of big holes, we suck out all the oil, we discover that you can make Vaseline and sell that to people, which is weird, by the way, but Vaseline comes from oil wells. And then 50 or 100 or 150 years later, we go, oh, hey, that caused a bunch of problems. We should do something about that. This is the first time we've ever done that ahead of time. And in addition to that, this is the very first time we've ever tried to put rules in place for resources that exist beyond any boundary. So resources that no one actually owns and that everybody owns. And so the treaty that comes out of the International Seabed Authority is going to set the tone and set the precedent for the next generation, the next century, the next millennia of human exploitation, as we figure out how we handle things like resources on Mars or resources on asteroids, or if someone decides they want to start putting billboards on the moon. All of that is going to stem from the negotiation happening at the UN International Seabed Authority now. And if that gets blown up because one company can't afford to stay solvent long enough to let the negotiation finish, we're going to be in real bad shape. And things are going to start looking a lot less like Star Trek and a lot more like Warhammer.
Oh my God. Could you imagine looking up at the beautiful moon and there's like a neon sign that's like
Coca-Cola.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, this is wild, but I love that we're even thinking about this. I like that we're looking into what could happen, something that could spread into an area that we actually glorify. You know what I mean? A lot of people look at the universe as very spiritual. And
Mm-hmm.
here we're like, hey, guess what? We can bring craziness here in the world over into your spiritual side that you literally look up to get away from this awful culture. And guess what? We can bring the culture right up there. I mean, this is a great topic, and I think this
It's
is
really going to mess up the werewolves.
okay. This is good. I love that we're talking about this on today. So, yeah, you're right. This kind of does put everything in play. Like, what the heck will happen with the seabed is exactly going to happen and be used for the moon or Mars or anything else.
Anywhere you can think of it, we have resources that exist beyond any one country's jurisdiction.
That we share.
Shared resources, and that's Antarctica, that's the moon, that's the solar system, that's asteroid mining. So,
It's absolutely
satellites
insane.
in high Earth orbit. I've had lots of conversations with folks who do work on orbital policy, and it's very similar discussions happening now.
Honestly, it's a very scary topic because there's a lot of people that are counting on these resources for their
Absolutely.
emotional and physical and livelihood. And then there's those that are caring about the resources and their economic growth. And it's like I feel like we need to be thinking about voting on it as a collective and take out the monetary, but there's no way to take out the monetary.
You've just created an international seabed authority, a unitary body comprised of almost every country on the earth, representing their own interests, trying to figure it out together. That's exactly what they're trying to do at the UN right now, and that's exactly what is at stake with the idea of the US going it alone.
But there still needs to be the population, the people, you know what I mean? Like each country has their own economic desire and goals, you know what I mean? And so I feel like a lot of them are not representing the people and what the people need and the culture and what they desire.
You mean an oligarchy versus a democracy?
Exactly. This is way complicated, Andrew, and I don't even know how you handle this. Like, I mean, I would be drinking every night. No, just joking. I drink only when I'm happy. I don't drink when I'm sad. But seriously, I don't understand how you can handle this. I mean, I thank you for being involved in it.
I have a very good therapist.
I was going to say, I mean, it's got to be hard. I mean, there's a lot on your shoulders, and I do appreciate that you are one of our leaders in this topic. I wish that the Congress heard you. I bet you had a really good speech.
Actually, the individual they picked is an environmental lawyer named Duncan Curry, who is
He was very good.
He was very good. He's a friend of mine, and he was absolutely the right pick for that too.
Yeah.
Because he can speak more directly.
Do you think that we could get him on the show so then people could hear him?
Absolutely.
Oh, that would be incredible. This is great. I mean, I thank you. I think that there's a lot of listeners that also are kind of in the dark about this topic, especially since we're, sending women out to space for like, what, 13 minutes or something like that?
11 minutes in low Earth orbit.
Exactly. This is becoming very, very real. You know what I mean? So
Plus the commercialization of resources that we don't have control over.
Exactly. Space is becoming very, very close. So I think that this is a really important topic, and I really do hope that we continue this and just keep up with us and tell us what the latest news is, and let's get your friend on the show for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Craken, thank you for being here, drinking your tea. I feel like you need to be joining me. It's a happy occasion. Yeah, exactly. On this happy occasion, obviously.
Be careful. He might microwave your wine.
Oh my God, I love this relationship. This is so good. And for everyone that's listening, thank you so much for being part of the Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew.
And thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow us for future episodes. And also, refer us. We'd love it. We would also like to hear from you, so please contact us on social media, or you can email us about a topic that you're interested in hearing about. If you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, or you would like us to come visit your science facility and do a live episode, email us at info@absolutelysmashingllc.com. This podcast was edited and produced by Absolutely Smashing. The music is produced by Jolly Shore Leave. Thank you again for listening, and we couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for being part of the Marine Conservation Happy Hour crew.